Okay, so welcome to season 2.5. It is the season between 2 and 3, if that hasn't been made freaking obvious. Okay, so this in-between season is a little experiment of like how can we produce something that really answers some of the questions that came up from season 2. So there was a lot of responses that we got about like how do you really cope with work on an everyday basis, right? Especially from a young working professional point of view, especially from a millennial point of view. So we thought, why not we do a bunch of episodes? How many episodes are we doing? 6 simple episodes. But this time we are going to put the millennial middle manager in the chair because I think it's a voice that is not really heard from much. We talk about the call to leadership. We talk about what leaders should do, but we don't often go to the middle managers who are caught in the messy middle of work about actually what can you do, and what gets in the way of work. So I'm going to shut up right now and pass the mic over to my middle managers to take it away. So it's all in your hands now, middles.
And I feel like this is very fitting for the first episode because we are going to start this off with imposter syndrome. And before we produce this 2.5, Shao said, okay, you go and do. And then I immediately felt a lot of imposter syndrome. Who say I can take the mic and talk? Who the heck wants to listen to me? So that's why I dragged Cam in here.
Hello.
And last season, Cam came in to talk about how we function as a team and how we navigate our differences together while we also figure that out for ourselves. And I think, which is why we wanted to have Cam back in here to talk about this very, 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 very familiar experience of imposter syndrome and what that looks like for her as a thinky type and how that's different for me as a feely type, both in our middle manager part of our career lah. Right?
And actually, before you launch into that, I'm very struck as a leader and as a Gen X person. I would not have imagined that this is episode 1, right? Like imposter syndrome. Like, is it really that the biggest thing for middle managers and for millennials?
Honestly, that is what came up for every single person I had a conversation with prior to our recording sessions. Even if it wasn't the topic of conversation of the episode,
right?
Almost everybody was saying, "Oh, you want to talk to me? I have nothing to share, or like I don't know what I wanna. I don't know how I can contribute to the conversation." And so that immediate feeling of imposter syndrome, even right off the bat, I think is the underlying thing that we are all facing right now as middle managers.
Yeah. Wow. Because I do find it insightful, and I'm really hoping that other leaders who may be listening really pay attention to this may not even have popped up for you as a possibility, but I'm struck by it. But okay, I said I'll shut up, so I'm going to shut up right now. Okay, over to you, middles.
I think before we get into that, I think what's striking for me is how striking it is for you. Because I feel like for me, and I don't know for you, Cam, it's a very common experience. It's like a day-to-day reality.
Day-to-day, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And for that to be quite a distant understanding for you as our boss, I think that's what's interesting for me.
When Azrin says day-to-day, she literally means it because her mug literally says imposter syndrome. Like, I don't know which camera you want to show it to. I'll show it to that one. Let him see. You literally wear your imposter syndrome openly. Okay, but anyway, yes, I said I'll shut up. Go.
So Cam.
Yes.
How has it... We won't start with the existentials.
Okay.
But how...
All right, great.
But how does it come up for you at work? On a very day-to-day, on a very practical level.
How does imposter syndrome come up for me at work? I guess for me, it's like, I usually have a checklist of what I need to achieve to feel like achieve something, right? So how it shows up for me at work is like, I'm doing the thing that I'm supposed to do, but it's not reaching what's on my checklist. So I feel like I'm not actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing at full capacity. So in a way, I'm just replicating what needs to be done and just doing what needs to be done. So I don't feel like, while I have the skills, some of the skills, I don't feel like I have 100% or at least 90% of the skills to fulfill what is needed, but then the work is still done. So it's a bit of a weird thing.
What do you mean by replicating the tasks?
Like, I feel like I'm, how do I say this? So if it's another person at where I'm at right now, they might be able to do it better.
As in you're imagining if it was this imaginary person would have done your job way better.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like I'm replicating. So it's like I'm like the secret person just going around replicating what could have been done better lah. I don't even know how to say that. That makes sense. Is it making sense?
Yes, in a sense that it's like you're just kind of like filling a spot.
Yeah, like a spy kind of thing. Like just like, okay, if this needs to be done, I'm doing it maybe at 50%.
Okay.
And there's someone else. So if I'm gone or dead or whatever, someone else comes over, the person will be able to do the job, if not better lah.
Because you imagine you're replaceable.
Yeah. In that sense, I don't feel like I have the skills for the situation lah.
Yeah. Okay.
And this doesn't just apply to work, actually. Even like in, I don't know, in life or when I'm doing my hobbies and stuff.
Okay.
So I feel like, well, if I learn from a video how to do a certain thing, I'm replicating what the person is doing.
Okay.
That's not my thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's your thing? Or like, what do you think?
See, that's the existential bar.
Okay, we will get there in the first 5 minutes.
So like I was having this conversation with Azrin, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what is it for me? So I realized that it's either I'm an imposter or that I'm a failure. There is no in between.
Wow, those are like very extreme
Imposter or
things.
failure?
Yeah. So
And there's no in between.
yeah, as in I'm realizing that for myself, which led
Okay.
me to like have an existential crisis lah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I started laughing about it and then I started crying about it in the next minute because it was like, oh no, what's this going on for me? So,
Okay. Yeah. I mean, this does remind me of that season 2 last episode where you were taking questions from the from the crowd, the invisible crowd, and that big question that got quite a lot of response was like, how do you survive in your 20s or something, right? And it's like, I guess for the millennials that are working right now, and plus if you're a middle manager, then it's like a double whammy of like, what is this identity crisis I'm going through, right? I'm still in that process of forming, who am I? What can I do? And I'm hearing these like really strong words of like, you know, if I can't do what I imagine I ought to be doing, then I'm imposter or failure. And there's no in between. And it could be it's just a developmental decade to go through.
But so like logically it makes sense for me. Like, yeah, for other people there is the in between. But if I'm thinking for myself, it's like realizing that I didn't give myself the space to be in the growing bit of it. So like logically I can tell my friends, yeah, you are growing, it doesn't matter, you are not an imposter. So I logically can tell my friends about it. But then I'm realizing in my conversations with Azrin is that I can give others that permission, but I'm not giving myself that permission. Yeah.
Is it a generational thing? And by that I mean millennial. Is it a position thing? Like it's a middle manager thing? Or is it like kind of all of the above?
I don't know if it's a generation thing, but I do resonate with that. Is that in a sense that you can give that same permission to others, but you hold yourself to a higher standard.
Yeah.
So what's coming up for me is a story from season 1 of Finding Common Ground podcast. I remember we worked on it for 6 months, the first season. And when it was time to launch, I remember that I was in such a rush to launch that the social media posts I made to post, I had a couple typos that people pointed it out to me. And I had to keep taking it down, changing it, putting it up. And this was like 6 months into the project already. And I remembered beating myself so hard about it because, oh my God, it's already like out there and I'm making so many mistakes and people are pointing it out. And it took away every single satisfaction and celebration that I had prior to that mistake. And so one of our teammates actually told me like, oh, you know what? Like that's a small thing. Like you did this entire thing and you were part of this really cool thing. You have so much to be proud of, but I couldn't accept any form of like congratulations from the team or like the wider community because I knew that that was a blunder that I had made. And then it made me think about, was it because it was a public blunder or like an external something external that people could see. If it was a private mistake, maybe I wouldn't have been so hard on myself. But because it was a public thing, was it like extrapolated and disproportionately beating myself up for it? So I can resonate with the whole like, it's easy to tell other people like, small thing only, don't worry. But then internally, it's like a really, really big deal. Like the smallest thing feels like a big deal.
Yeah.
So is it imposter syndrome? And I want to avoid like what's the dictionary definition and whatever kind of like fancy theory stuff, right? But like, so is imposter syndrome about if there's something good about me, I don't really embrace it, or I struggle to embrace it and welcome it and accept that to be true. But if I find something wrong with me and what's not okay, I am more ready to embrace that as that must be the truth about me.
And that overshadows everything good about me.
Yeah.
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 But that's not okay.
Yeah. So it goes back to what I said just now, right? It's either I'm an imposter or I'm a failure, or I'm a failure. So like I'm carrying out the action. So it's like, okay, I'm doing okay. I'm not doing the best, but I'm doing okay. And then if I like somehow drop something or didn't manage to do a certain action or task, it's like I'm a failure. Because I was putting myself at only completing at 50%. Or even lesser actually, just completing the task. So if I drop anything, it feels like automatically failure lah. Yeah, like just right on the brink of just passing. And then after that, it's like anything that drops like a 5% or even like a 1%, because I feel like I'm only at 50%. So it's like a failure because it's less than 50%. Yeah.
So if you're like suffering from imposter syndrome as a middle and you're harsh on yourself, then how does that impact the way you treat other middles or like when they make mistakes?
For me, they are allowed to make mistakes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I could see that they are functioning at like 80, 90 or even 110%, but I couldn't see that for myself.
Okay.
Which is the funky part, because it's like literally I can go to Azrin and say, you're doing very good. Like you're doing 101 podcasts. You're like managing so many different projects going on at the same time. Yeah. You're doing the stuff that you need to be doing and you're managing so many different things. So it's like, you're just amazing. But it's like, if I done that, I don't feel like I'm as amazing. I don't know why. Yeah.
And I think quite funnily, whatever you just said just flies past my head. So then it doesn't benefit either of us. Like I don't receive your compliments and your affirmations, and it also doesn't
so it's
help
just
you. So then it's just like a negative cancelling out of each other.
Yeah.
So and sometimes on team, I don't think we do it like often, but sometimes I've tried to close meetings or close a project where I'll ask you guys to like offer yourself a compliment. Yeah, like then is it like, let me just fake compliment myself right now?
When I was doing those things, I like the compliment bit. I don't think I'm doing a fake compliment, but it's like the least compliment.
Okay.
So it's not a fake bit, but it's like the least I can offer myself is
like,
that
I survived today. I'm still breathing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there is better now than I was 2 years ago, but I don't think there has been a proper moment in my career where I feel like I could properly celebrate myself. It's always a space of, okay, there's more. I can be better.
Yes.
It's like always reaching and always moving forward, but not like taking a second to kind of appreciate how far I've come. So I think what I'm curious about is how we deal with that on a team level, because whenever you come to me and you're like, Azrin, no, and I'm just like, ugh. I think that is something that we're all kind of like figuring out.
Yeah, sometimes I just don't feel what I'm feeling and just do what I need to do. At least think enough that I'm functioning at the 50% mark. So then at least I can get the job done. And then like offer myself the least compliment lah. Like, I got it done. Good job.
So what has been useful to y'all? Because like all of you are like, how many? There's quite a handful of you who are all like in the middle, and you're all also like of similar-ish age enough. So what has been the best way to support each other through like this like self-beating up process, and, like imposter syndrome-ish?
We self-beat up together.
Frankly, the work that I put you all through, a lot of it is in the area of newness, of uncertainty, where there isn't exactly a playbook of like what is the best way to do it, because there isn't really a best way. And I put a lot of agency on all of you to like figure it out, because I trust all of you to like figure the best way out for us, you know. So how have you all been supporting each other in the middle?
Well, I don't know if it works for you lah, but I find myself trying to find specific compliments to what to what Azrin is doing. I do try. I don't know if it works. So I don't just say, your podcast is fantastic. I take the time, as in, not that it's a job, but I legitimately want to listen to the podcast and be interested in what she's doing. So I actually listen to all the podcast episodes and
damn.
Yeah. Yes, that's what I do on weekends. And then I'm like, okay, these are the parts that I like about, say, this particular episode. And then I let Azrin know that this particular line and this particular section is what I really resonate with and really think it's a good thinking point for me to think about.
That's so funny. That's exactly what like your mind would go to, right? The thinking, the content, the information, the thinking part, and present that as like my affirmation and compliment to you.
It's like, look at this. I found it in what you did.
Then does that connect for you?
Sometimes. I think sometimes
it's a hit and miss.
It's a hit and miss in a sense. I think I see and acknowledge your efforts in trying to find very specific ways to affirm me. But until I'm also kind of okay with my own sense of self, I wouldn't be able, sometimes I can accept, sometimes I don't. It's dependent on the actual compliment itself or like affirmation. So I cognitively am grateful for your efforts and your time, the time you're taking to do that. But at the same time, it's like, I wish I could like embrace it
fully.
Yeah,
right?
embrace it and accept it fully and have that be like a positive impact on me in how I view myself. But I think what's interesting about what you've shared and how that's your habit in terms of how you show affirmations to others is that for me, I find myself just holding that space, like for you or like for our teammates in whatever space that they need. And that's as best as I can do, because I also know that if I say you doing good, why that's not gonna land.
Yeah.
So then it's just like letting you sit in whatever emotions you're sitting with, whether that be like full overwhelm or hysterical laughing to crying, which has happened twice in the team in the past 2 weeks. So I think all of us just kind of understand that we each need some time and space to just sit with our emotions. Because I think at the end of the day, the work that we do, like you said, you just want to do. But it gets to a point where the emotions come And when the emotions come, then I think what my strength is and what I can say that I can do is that I can be there when your emotions do come and I can hold that space for you.
Yeah, 3 working days later.
3 working days later. But it comes nevertheless.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even though it's not so much of let me fix your sense of self, it's more so, okay, what do you need right now? And how can I best show up for you in this moment? Yeah.
So from a developmental point of view, right? What is the better thing that a leader like me can do for like a middle like you, who's like going through imposter syndrome, you know?
I think what helped me is that there was we had a meeting.
Yeah.
And then you explicitly said that it's okay to make the mistake. And knowing that it's also okay to make mistakes in the trying out and experimenting and all that stuff it brings a little bit of comfort in that sense for me lah. So it's I have the space to make mistakes. I don't have to be full on 100% all the time. Yeah. So I can be an imposter for now. Kind of thing, you know?
For now.
I can be an imposter till I make it. Yeah, fake it till I make it lah at this point.
I kind of don't want you guys to fake it though.
I mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm logically knowing that I'm not faking it, but also the body takes some time to catch up.
Okay.
Yeah. So logically, it's it doesn't make sense that I offer other people the space to be.
Yeah.
Feel that.
It's kind of just make it till you make it.
Make it till you make it.
Make it till you make it. You know, I don't think it's helpful for fake it till you make it. And I kind of don't want you all to fake it. If you made a mistake, then let's talk about a mistake. Because it's not like I don't make mistakes. It's not like I don't okay, this was a great idea at first and then now it's not a great idea anymore. Okay, let's just screw that. Let's think of a new thing. So I wanted to normalize that. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's also very hard for me to lead. I also want to make mistakes.
Yeah.
I think for me, what I've been most appreciative of is the intentional effort to create safety in the team. Because I think even if I can't necessarily come to you directly and tell you how and what I feel, I can always go to the team. And every single person in the team, I feel like I can do that with. And I think that definitely comes from the top lah, because of your intentional efforts to create a team that is safe and that is trying in our own ways to be, the best person that we can be for ourselves and for each other. Then that helps in terms of when I go to you for needs, I know I can trust you. And I don't feel like you're just going to take whatever I say and use it against me, or I don't feel like I'm competing against you or anything like that. It's really a peer-to-peer relationship where it's not just work, it's not just KPIs, it's not just success, and it's not just accomplishments. It's the other parts of it too. It's the stress that comes with the works and accomplishments and success.
The person is also important.
The person is also important lah. Yeah.
Yes. the person is vital. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's yeah. I mean, there's all these echoes of season 2, right? The person is professional and the professional is personal. Yeah, because I'm struck by this. The concept of imposter syndrome is the judginess is about how well am I performing as a professional? It's not oh dear, I'm being I don't know if that's your thought, but oh dear, I'm being fake kind right now. I'm not. I have no idea. But it's more on the professional front, right? I should be better at research. I should be better at social media. I should be better at training or whatever it is, but I'm not. Versus a lot of the greatness, you've already made it in that way that I see in all of you is there's always space for professional development and there's always space for personal development. But I feel that at the position that you're in, it's like that's where it is. You know, it is what it is. And as long as there's this effort to develop professionally, and also what's more important for me is it's built on this foundation of like personhood, like self-aware. Of course, there's self-deprecation.
There's plenty full of that.
Yeah, but like I thank you for that for the compliment that it comes from the top, that there's psychological safety in the team and all that. But I'm very aware that it's not just me. It's not just me, because you all have a lot of conversations with each other and you all like go through a lot of messy middle tasks and all that kind of stuff that I am blocked from. I don't see it. I don't see it. And I'm well aware that I don't swim in a lot of the murky waters of tasks that you all have to do on behalf of the organization or the system, right? Yeah, so that the team is strong so far. It's because you all have been real with each other, and and that there's no fake imposter thingy,
Yeah.
Like I think I'll be really, really I will be the most worried about like imposter niceness.
Nah.
Yeah, like I would rather have like someone who's like
Nah.
like semi-skilled, learning to be skillful.
Yeah.
But like bedrock of good, strong personal integrity and all that, imperfect, but at least there's that bedrock going. Then like someone who's like uber skilled and like one heck of an imposter, and it turn out like to be a liar or a cheat or whatever. Like, and I've worked with those kind, it's not fun. Yeah, so I don't know like how to validate that, like, having, you're all decent,
I think one thought that I have had, so I attended FCFC, right?
Yeah.
Like facilitating conversations for change. Then there is
product placement.
yeah,
Good job, Ken.
there's this sentence that you said that I think is very chewy, and I keep in my head when I'm feeling too much of a dip into the imposter bit.
Yeah.
Is that like we are all work in progress. So like, I was like, okay, I'm still like trying it out. I mean, I may feel like I'm faking it in terms of the tasks that I think I can complete better. I don't know how. It's like, okay, I'm getting there. I will eventually get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess revealing that, like, you don't understand it or you made a mistake there, but that is being real. So there's no imposter-ish in that sense for me.
In that sense, but I also am aware that I have very high expectations of myself. So I don't know if that ties into the whole like imposter syndrome thing. So it's like being aware that my expectations may not be realistic to reach at a certain point, after a certain point. And I guess it's also figuring out for myself where that certain point is at. Because if I don't do that work myself, I will always feel like I'm an imposter.
I guess that calls into question, right? Like, what are we expecting of each other at work? What are we expecting of leadership? What are we expecting of middle managers? What are we expecting of ourselves? And like actually, what are those expectations that are causing us to punish ourselves? And maybe it's like don't have to what? You know?
There's a very interesting sentence that I read somewhere. It's like, just because you're not like Mozart or whatever, right? Or Beethoven or whatever, you are not making music. So you're still making music, even though like you're not famous composer or anything like that. So that was like, okay, sometimes when I'm feeling a little bit dip, I was like, okay, I will remember that. Yeah. So that was an interesting bit. That like little tidbits I guess if any of the tips is how do I combat it at work or with myself. It's like all these little, okay, I'm still in the work in progress. Okay, I'm like still making music. I'm still doing the stuff. I'm still doing art. I'm still doing something to get eventually there.
I think my beef with imposter syndrome is like, I feel that it's the sincere I want to get things right. I want to do right by people. People who struggle with imposter syndrome. And then all the fakos are like, I have no problem being like a total shit to people, right? And I have no problem lying my ass off that I can do this thing. And they're the ones who are putting themselves out there. It's like, it drives me like a bit like bananas, right? So like I've been like hanging out on LinkedIn a lot more, trying to understand like what does it mean to build a presence there. And like you can see like there are some really solid people on LinkedIn. And then there are some like who like clearly do not suffer from imposter syndrome. You know? But maybe like you're like, But they're the ones, who are constantly putting themselves out there, getting a lot of hits, getting a lot of views. And you wonder like, what would happen if people who are actually had a solid enough, strong foundation, like didn't second guess themselves and put themselves just as much out there, or pitched for the same jobs that these people are pitching, or wrote up the same, just put themselves out there, because the real imposters are swimming around out there, like occupying the space.
I don't know if imposter syndrome is kind of informed by what my mom used to tell me as a child.
Okay.
It's like empty vessels make the most noise.
Yeah.
So like if you do be proud of what you're doing, or like you become like more showy of what you're doing, you're an empty vessel. Yeah, you're not actually capable. So I guess I don't know if that informs my like, okay, so I'm not function 100% lah in that sense. Because like if I want to talk about it, then I'm like not actually, I don't know if that fits into.
I guess like the distinction I use like when I'm trying to like get a grasp of like whether this person is for reals or whether this person is an imposter is, I generally get quite suspicious of people who are always talking about like, I nailed it in life. Like I'm like so good. I'm so humbled. I'm so like honored, and I'm so glad, that I have this beautiful award. Look at me. And like generally for me, I look at that and I think there's probably a lot you're not telling. Yeah, but what's really going on? And I think the people that I like to follow or work with or believe in, like there is a factualness of the way they talk, and by factualness, I mean like, they're like, okay, so I'm doing this now. I don't totally understand it, like there's this like, I'm trying to ground it in reality. And I think that actually builds a lot more authority to me lah. I mean, I'm sure like there's a world full of people who fall for fakes and all that. Well, let's not go there.
Maybe season 3.5.
I want more people to be okay with themselves, because I want them to occupy the space, and I want the imposters to go away. The real imposters, not the ones who are suffering from imposter syndrome but have so much to offer. Yeah, that drives me nuts. Yeah, there are lots of very, very good people, but they don't put themselves as much out there.
Yeah.
I
am mindful of time. We do want to keep these little 6-parter episodes a bit more snappy and punchy. So on that note, Xiao, I think we can share one piece of learning insight or tip on how we are figuring out how to take more space in this world. How to take up more space in this world. I think that's a big part of that relationship that we have with imposter syndrome, right? The bigger the imposter syndrome, the smaller we feel about ourselves. So how can we practice taking up more space in our workplaces, in our personal lives, in the world, tomorrow, today, later?
Well, I find myself being more open to asking questions rather than just like sitting with the task and not like sitting in anxiety and like, I don't know how to do this, but let me go find a way out. So like I find myself asking more questions on how to get things done and being more open about the negative feelings I have with the task. So that's actually a practice that I'm trying to do, which is like to name actually how I'm feeling about the tasks to my other group members or like colleagues or like I mean it's 3 days late lah sometimes but like it's just giving myself the time to go and like, okay, I'm feeling X because of X, so I don't know how to proceed with X because XYZ, so what can I do? And then it's like hearing what the other parties have to offer and then proceed from there so that I feel less like an imposter, because in a sense I'm not I'm getting the wisdom of the crowds, I guess. Yeah, that's how I try to manage whatever it is lah.
I think for me it's a lot about boundaries. I think if I'm thinking back to every single moment of any feelings of imposter syndrome, it's always an external validation or like an external point of reference that I that affect me and how I view myself. And so boundaries allow me to protect myself, I suppose, and not in a sense like I'm putting walls up, but more so like, hey, this is what I want and what I think is good for me and what I need. Whether you are okay and not okay with that, that's up to you lah. But I know that I'm going to hold firm on that. So I think earlier in my career, it was a lot of people pleasing, a lot of fawning, a lot of doing anything anybody asks of me. And now it's not that at all. It's I will do it. If I do it, I will do it depending on what I can actually feasibly offer to you lah, and not so much of just taking it and saying, okay, I'll do it. So protecting myself in that way, but at the same time holding my ground. In putting out a firmer boundary, I'm holding my ground.
No, I like it. I mean, I hear a lot of power or like the journey of self-empowerment, like in what you both share. I'm taking away more of like what I would like to practice more. Like, so if the imposter syndrome process is very, very real for all of you.
It is.
And I will confess, like, I know a personality like problem for me is I'm an Enneagram 5, and Enneagram 5s are not the most generous with compliments. So I hear you, Cam, on the like specific compliments. Like can be quite helpful. So I shall try and practice that. Being more specific rather than good job. Yes, my husband who's producing this, it has just like shook his fist in joy. Yes, I confess. I am not naturally generous with compliments. And I'm realizing that just being very specific about it, instead of just saying like that was a good job, well done, but to like talk about what specifically was well done or good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I shall do better.
Thank you.
Bad boss.
Next episode.
So should we just close it off with one compliment you can offer yourself? Yeah, that's for reals.
That's for reals.
That's for reals. And not like I survived.
Oh my god, I was gonna go with I survived. No, I think it's more like I am happy or I'm glad that I'm still here trying. Not that I survived per se, but like, I mean, as truthful as I can be, is that I'm still trying instead of just like, okay, thanks, bye, like giving up and saying like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, and like just go be a farmer somewhere or something, like
still on the table.
Yeah. I'm still like trying to do what I want to do with that 50% of knowledge, hoping that I will eventually reach the 80% or 90% that I'm satisfied with. Yeah.
I think one compliment that I can give myself is that in preparation for all these episodes, I've spoken to each of our guests. And I think while it seems like work, it was 30 minutes of time that each of them took to have a chat with me. And though we were trying to firm up our outlines for each episode, I got out of those conversations a stronger connection with each of the people that I spoke to. And that would not have happened if not for the podcast, which we had also created and are going into our third season later this year. So I think a lot to be happy and proud about, specifically to this podcast.
Yeah.
For this podcast.
Good job, line producer.
Specific. Well done. Specific. Line producer.
Oh my goodness. Okay. The compliment I would like to pay to myself is, I think for a long time, I let other people influence me into thinking that I'm not a good leader, that I'm not a leader and not a good leader. And I had a lot of self-doubt about like, why am I have a position called leader, but I'm not sure if I know how to lead or I can lead. And I get a lot of encouragement and satisfaction seeing how you all are supporting each other and managing and leading each other. And that helps me to see that I know how to lead a team. Yeah. And that makes me happy and validated.
Yes. Yes. Compliment ourselves. Good boss. Nicely done. I feel very prepared.
Oh my goodness.
Specifics.
Oh, this is going to lead to some like interesting like work lunches.
Yeah. So now moving forward, I'm always very wary whenever Cam hysterical laughs. You never know what that's going to open up. But I think I'm very, very, very happy to be able to share a table with each of you again. I don't know how many of you out there can tell your boss you feel immense imposter syndrome. And for her to actually sit down and listen to that experience.
Yeah,
so
that's
a lot
true.
of things that Cam and I speak on your behalf when I say we're grateful for.
I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hope you got something out of this. I think what's interesting for me is whatever Cam says, I can link back to her thinky brain, and now what I'm getting out of it is that the way you pay specific compliments to me, I'm realizing that I should do the same for you, because it sounds like that's something that's important to you. And so I will start doing that.
Okay, thank you.
And like we'll just close off with, and if you're listening out there and if you're enjoying like our strange 2.5 season about what it feels like to lead from the messy middle, to manage from the messy middle as a millennial, just send us like your questions or themes that you'd like us to unpack. And I'm definitely wanting to platform more from middle management, just to hear about what's the experience in there, because I don't think it's an easy position to sit with in any organization or system. Yeah. So send those questions in.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.